Hello and welcome to the EnOcean Aruba webinar for talking about the Internet plus things for real IoT. My name is Troy Davis. I'm the VP of Sales here at EnOcean in North America. We're going to run through over the next 30 minutes or so just sort of a recap of how to connect the Aruba access points which are out there in the field with some of the EnOcean sensors and devices that are capable of communicating with that. And we'll go through and talk about it, how exactly that works. So I'll go ahead and hide my webcam now. You don't need to look at me the whole time. And we will go ahead and get started. So here we go. All right. This is what we're going to cover over the next 30 minutes or so. So who is EnOcean? Who is the EnOcean Alliance? What does self-powered mean? And the Aruba and EnOcean kind of working together, how we, as two different separate companies, Aruba being the Hewlett-Packard enterprise and EnOcean, how do we work together, and what's the best kind of way to bring those two worlds together? We're going to talk about several current applications. We'll ask a couple of questions to you. So I will bug you and wake you up about halfway through and ask you a question, ask you to click on something. Then we'll kind of go through a process of how to see it all work. Then we'll talk about some next steps, and we'll do a Q&A quickly. And then, like I said, this should last roughly 30 minutes or so. So who is EnOcean? Well, EnOcean provides self-powered IoT solutions, IoT being the Internet of Things, and self-powered meaning that we can operate without wires or without batteries. In most cases, we can self-power the sensors and devices that are inside a space. So that means you can just deploy a temperature or humidity sensor onto the wall. It's got a little solar collector on it that collects light from the, or collects energy from the lights in the space, and that can be artificial light, can be window light, natural light, whatever it needs to be, and they will just sort of run autonomously and transmit their temperature and humidity or whatever value they're designed to transmit accordingly. So that's how we do the self-powered on the sensor side. On switches, we actually use the motion. So if you press a regular everyday light switch, it moves a few millimeters. We do the same thing, but during that few millimeters of movement, we actually capture that energy and turn it into enough electricity that we can send a wireless command out to the space and coordinate with some of the different controllers or different access points and different things. And you can make those do a whole variety of different things, which we will show here in just a minute. So energy harvesting components, we have it optimized kind of for the 800, 900 megahertz range, which works really well inside buildings. It's a great frequency platform for working inside of structures. It's also great for outdoor working in industrial applications and other places like that. We do have double-digit millions of products shipped, and we're working through the EnOcean Alliance, which we'll talk about on the next slide. The EnOcean Alliance has actually deployed devices into over 1 million buildings around the world. So we've got a really large footprint throughout the world in these self-powered devices that are out there. And we've got offices in Europe, we've got offices in North America, and we have people in Asia, and we've been in business for nearly 20 years. And part of the reason why we've sort of grown over the last 20 years and achieved what we've been able to achieve is because of our strong patent portfolio. So we do have over 100 patents in these different patent families, and they're kind of across the world. So we have them in Europe, US, China, Japan. We've got them kind of spread around based on what we need in the different regions. So that's been really a great thing for our organization as well. So the EnOcean Alliance. The EnOcean Alliance is a group of companies that have come together that use the EnOcean technology. So there's about 400 different member companies that are part of this. Together, those companies make about 5,000 or so interoperable products. The EnOcean Alliance comes together and standardizes all of the communication structure around all these sensors, switches, different things, and then worked with the ISO and the IEC, which are worldwide standardization bodies that approved us, the EnOcean protocol as an open global standard. So it's very easy for an organization to kind of come in and join us and have the ability to utilize the energy harvesting setup with the EnOcean protocol and begin to offer products to that marketplace. And we do encourage that to happen as much as possible, because the more products we have, the more broad our solution can be, which allows all these IoT projects to continue to grow and move forward based on the fact that there's more pieces and things out there. So we'll talk a little bit about energy harvesting. I'm going to go through this a little bit faster than I did in previous webinars, because we want to focus more on the Aruba side and that connection, but I do want to give some background on the EnOcean and kind of how it works. So like I just talked about with the light switches, kinetic energy, we use the energy from the press of your finger. So if you move that light switch 2 or 3 millimeters, we capture that energy in that magnet and coil setup. It's not a piezo. Piezo we found to be fairly fragile and not consistent enough to operate the way we need to, and it's very noisy. So we went with this magnet and coil setup, and it works great. You can press and hold the switch as a dimmer. You can just press it once and have the lights come on and off. You can also use these as call buttons, which we'll see in a moment. So you can have it be just an indicator of, hey, something needs to happen at this position in a factory or in a restroom. They need attention. They're out of paper towels or whatever. They need something. So there's many different applications for that kinetic switch, and there's no batteries in that. There's no place for a backup battery in that. It's not required. Every single time you press that switch, that will transmit its wireless signal. So solar energy, again, we have lots and lots of different products that use solar energy, and so much of solar is always considered to be outdoor, on your roof or on the top of poles for street lights or whatever, and it has to point at the sun. In our case, we need such a small amount of energy that we're actually capturing just the electric light in the space, or like I said, we can use some of the light from the windows and capture that in order to have sort of ongoing power source for these various different devices that can be mounted on the walls or anywhere inside a space. Thermal energy, we actually can generate enough energy through temperature differences that we can move motors. So we can actually open and close valves on radiators. We can do a whole variety of things with thermal energy. Thermal energy has a tremendous amount of capability of producing a lot of power. And really, you just need 2 different temperatures. You need the temperature of, say, the pipe on the radiator and the air temperature in the room. You need that differential in order to generate the energy you need, and then you can capture that power inside capacitors and then turn the motor there. So that works out great as well. So a couple things that I wanted to just sort of hit real quick. EnOcean solutions are kind of designed to do a whole host of things, but one of the things that they really do is provide innovation and the ability to give you flexibility in what your goals are and how you wire these things or leave them unwired and leave walls without wires in them. It allows convenience, and it can increase safety in certain applications. We can manage real estate through tracking of people and having all the different heat maps of a floor of an office building, for example, and try to figure out why no one ever goes into the room in the corner, but everybody goes into the other room. We can sort of help work through all those, and that's all using the sensors that are provided by EnOcean or EnOcean Alliance members. So one of the main things, though, is in these retrofit applications, which is where EnOcean really shines. We do a lot of new construction as well, but in retrofits, we can reduce the system installation costs substantially. So it's one of those things that where when you don't need to add the wires to an existing building, you can really cut the installation cost and time substantially, as well as the disruption to the existing occupants or tenants. You want to work to not disrupt them as much as possible. So we've been the things in the IoT, the Internet of Things. We've been the things for a very long time. It's just kind of recently gained attention with the name IoT. And we've done switches, remote controls, occupancy sensors, light level sensors to determine whether or not we need to turn the lights up or down or on or off. We've always been doing temperature, humidity, air quality with CO2 sensors. Those are becoming much more popular. We can do door and window statuses, positions of handles, and a significant number of other things. We've recently come to find out that the occupancy and motion sensors are actually being used to track people counting in some of the different office buildings that need to have people in the office, but they also need to connect with the social distancing and make sure that we keep the COVID rules in place, and they can actually send an alert if there's more than a certain number of people inside a space. And so that's been an interesting application that we've run across recently in these COVID times that we're in while we're recording this webinar today. So here's one of the questions. So we're going to wake you up for just a second, ask you to click on something. Do you plan to use IoT devices in your upcoming projects? And so I will have, let's see. I'm going to launch this. There we go. So the poll's open now, so I'll let you click on that. If you plan to use IoT devices in your upcoming projects, we'll kind of go through and I'll let you click on those while we're sitting here, and we'll let that run for just a little bit longer. All right, so we've got, I think I've got pretty much everybody now. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. So yeah, everybody said yes. Hopefully that's a true statement because you're here on an IoT webinar, so that makes sense. So thank you for answering that question. We appreciate it. The next thing that we're going to talk about is sort of bridging EnOcean and Aruba and how we do that. So we've talked about EnOcean, what we are, what we do. Now we're going to talk about how those two worlds come together. Aruba is owned by Hewlett-Packard. It's owned by Hewlett-Packard, and they are one of the largest Wi-Fi infrastructure companies in the world. So they provide all these different access points and a variety of different things with security, and they have a tremendous amount of existing infrastructure in the space. And then they also allow the connectivity. So we've got the connection to the cloud, to the outside world, to Microsoft Azure, to AWS, to IBM, to all these variety of different partners that we work with out there. So when we bring in the EnOcean core competency of the energy harvesting sensors, controllers, different things, we do all that while trying to limit the number of batteries that are deployed in a commercial building or an industrial space. And then you provide the Aruba access points. We bring those two things together, and that's where the difficulty of an IoT installation can be limited and can be made much more simple by simply plugging into the Aruba access points. One of the nice things that we find with the Aruba access point, and I'll come over here to talk about that part. Yeah, it's on this slide. So one of the great things that we find here is that part of the challenge of IoT installations has been, okay, so we want to connect to the Wi-Fi in the space, whatever that is, whether it's Aruba or another Wi-Fi provider. But historically, we've had to add a gateway that would then utilize the network that the Wi-Fi was connected to. And so that would mean that somehow or another, you would potentially have to, your IT department would have to give up some sort of control or some sort of connection to the actual corporate network. And that always proved to be a challenge. We found that people were sort of resistant to that because of some of the history of some of the different hacks that have happened and all that through a variety of different ways. So what Aruba has done is Aruba actually sets up what's called zero trust security, meaning they trust no one who comes in through this portion of the access point that we are working in. So they block all connections from the Aruba access point to the corporate network, but they still give us access to the cloud. So they redirect us away from the corporate network over to the cloud. And that is how we can leverage the connection to the cloud without ever touching the corporate network and connecting to whatever corporation owns the building or has the space that they're working in. So it's really a nice feature, and it adds tons of security layers. And that security is managed and built by Aruba, who is probably one of the premier internet security companies that's out there. They protect so many different ways. They have a whole variety of different layers and different methods of taking care of this portion of the business, that it's really nice to have someone with this level of experience and capability as protecting the network from IoT sort of potential issues that may come along with that. So that's been a really great piece. So let's move on now to one of the use case examples that we talk about. So probably one of the biggest places in North America anyway that EnOcean works in is schools. And so the schools are also a huge customer for Aruba. So if you have a school that has either installed the EnOcean products or has the Aruba products installed, those two systems can come together very quickly and easily. We install the lighting controller in a room and a wall-mounted aux sensor and a switch. Now you have full lighting control in your space, and you can also monitor through the cloud the occupancy and the space and see what is actually there and what's taking place in that space. It would also be very simple to add a temperature and humidity sensor in here so that you can understand exactly what's going on with your HVAC system and see if there's something out of sync with what it needs to be. And in certain cases, some of the different groups, software packages that are out there can actually connect to your HVAC system and communicate, hey, it's 80 degrees in this room, and we need, your system is saying that it's supposed to be 71 or 72, something's wrong, right? And so we can send a message to do that. So one of the more popular new things that's been happening for EnOcean are these little accelerometer sensors. So we have this little 1.5 by 1.5 vibration sensor with an accelerometer in it, and you basically stick that to a table, you stick it to a chair, and if it senses movement or just some of the different pieces of being alive in a chair, then it will actually send a message to the Aruba access point that says, hey, somebody's in chair number 25. That means workstation number 25 is occupied at the moment. And when it becomes unoccupied, you can have certain setups in the software to say, okay, it's unoccupied now. So if it's unoccupied for 2 hours, maybe we send the cleaning crew in there to wipe it all down and get it ready for the next person, and then show it as green and available. And maybe it's unoccupied for a half hour and the person comes back and you don't have to think about it. So there's really an interesting way with some of these flex workstations to bring some of these different things in there for the kind of to have these open desks. And also, again, with the COVID stuff, if someone has used it and then has moved on, the cleaning crew can go and just clean that one particular desk. They don't have to clean every single desk in the space because only that one was used that day, so, or for that moment. All right, another one is multi-site data tracking. This one has been pretty interesting as well. We've seen a lot of this growth over the last year or so, which is, say you have some sort of this burger chain or sandwich shop or grocery store or whatever you want to call it. You can actually bring in all these multiple sites into one spot, and that can be everything, all the data in each one. So air temperatures, we have refrigerator and food storage temperature sensors, leak detection, so you can figure out if there's water where there's not supposed to be water, and there's all sorts of different sensors that can feed into this data, and then they can trigger out an alert based on that location. So you can have your service technician go straight out to that location and respond to it before anyone ever even complains about it. So they might not even know that there's a problem at the store, and the service technician will show up and say, hey, your chicken storage is at 34 degrees. It's supposed to be at 31 degrees, whatever the issue is. So they can jump on those. And apartment buildings, the leak detection is really a big deal, especially in multi-floor, multi-family applications. So if the 6th floor has a leak, well, your 5th floor, 4th floor, 3rd floor will also get the water. So there's a big push now to sort of start monitoring the leaks there. And that has been a growing application for us as well. So a couple things just to kind of brainstorm and not keep it all towards the building side. We have a bunch of these cable harness sensors where you can actually monitor and control these processes in factories and do a lot of testing. It's the automotive industry uses us quite a bit, and we can have some communication to the cloud and tell you, yes, the wire harness for car number 4050 is perfectly wired and is working fine. Everything seems to go well, and the communication from one end to the other is exactly what we want. We can also do a lot of environmental monitoring. So we can monitor farms, we can monitor soil moisture, we can monitor humidity in the area, and we can help agriculture with basically making sure that they are using just exactly the right amount of water, water being one of their bigger expenses and also their bigger challenges with just moving things around and making sure that the crops are staying watered the way they need to. With a variety of the different sensors offered by EnOcean and EnOcean Alliance members, we have the ability to monitor all that. So then we have curious things that like a bus stop button. So this thing, the little gray with the stop button in the middle, there's nothing really to it. It's got the energy harvester inside and the radio, and you screw this thing onto any post inside the bus. So any bus, any post that you typically would stand there and hold on to can have a stop button with no wires going to it and no batteries inside that. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So all right, I'm going to wake you up one more time, and we're going to do this last poll here. And we're going to see if we can just kind of understand a little bit more about what some of the attendees today are needing. So if you could go ahead and answer these questions, this question, which IoT application matters to you most? Social distancing, desk utilization, building environment, meaning temperature, humidity, that kind of stuff. Assisted living, we've seen a lot of assisted living applications where we're trying to kind of keep this aging in place or monitoring our elderly population inside assisted living centers and that kind of thing. So there's a variety of different ways there that we can do that by monitoring those. And we try to monitor in the assisted living applications, we try to do it sort of without being intrusive. So it's sort of like, yes, somebody actually got out of bed today and they turned on this light, which is a typical morning routine. So it looks as though this morning is a normal morning. You could have the situation where you may not have a normal morning, and those messages can be sent out to the space to say, or if the software could trigger somebody to go and check on that person as needed. So thanks for answering that question. That's an interesting thing. We've got the energy saving portion of it is interesting because we've been pushing on the building environment a lot forever, and the energy saving side of it is great as well. And that's where it kind of comes back to that school where I said, if you have, the temperature in the classroom is 85 degrees and it's during the winter and you're supposed to be at 71 or 2, your heater is functioning above where it's supposed to, and so it's wasting energy. So it's kind of nice to have that feedback from the system to say, here's the different pieces of how that works. And then of course the lighting with occupancy sensors and all that, once you turn the lights off, they're saving them quite a bit of energy as well. So what does all this mean? At the end of the day, it's how do I actually use the Aruba access points to enable my IoT? And we're getting close to wrapping up here. So I'll just kind of go through this quickly so that you can see. EnOcean has created what's called an EISKU, and this allows you to see all the wireless data that's coming out of these devices that are here in real time up to the second. So you can have an accelerometer, you can have a temperature and humidity sensor, you can have a light level sensor, and you can have a light switch. And we show this to you in a very easy to use software package that's routed through the Aruba access point. So essentially you take this little USB stick here, you plug that into your Aruba access point, you make a couple of quick setting adjustments on the access point, and within a few seconds, you'll be able to start seeing this data coming through. And it's pretty fascinating. I've been watching it in my own office to see the swing of the temperatures and humidity throughout the day. And it's pretty interesting to see just kind of the amount of data that you can get out of these things is pretty impressive. So we send you with a multi-sensor, which does temperature, humidity, light level, door contact, and the accelerometer. We send it with a temperature and humidity sensor. We send it with a magnet contact. We send it with a wireless switch. So, and then of course the USB stick that goes into your device, the gateway. So you've got it. So we provide the hardware, and EnOcean provides the hardware, and the software options are sort of out there in the space. There's a ton of them available, but we have a few that we've kind of worked very closely with, so that it makes it easier for the whole package to come together. So we work with Microsoft Azure, we work with IBM, we work with Lausanne, we work with AWS. Of course, we work with Titanium Intelligent Building Solutions to monitor and control. They do a lot of people counting, and vintage buildings are kind of where they like to live. So there's a lot of things going on there. And then we can do real estate asset tracking and management to determine who has who's using this, not who is using the space, but how the space is being used by the people. So that way you can understand if you have waste in your real estate assets. So if you have a huge amount of space that's not being used, you can either downsize or you can reconfigure that space so that it is being used more often. They also do a lot of multi-site tracking, leak detection, all sorts of interesting things. Magnum Innovations does all aspects of building control, so lighting, HVAC, all of that. They have some people counting pieces, and both hardware and software and infrastructure, so they can provide all those different things. IAConneX is an interesting company out of the UK that we've been working closely with. They are also now here in the US, and they work a lot with assisted living, leak detection, office management, so flex desks, and air quality to make sure that you've got the right balance of oxygen and CO2 in the space for those kind of applications. So essentially, EnOcean makes the hardware, we power it through, go to the Aruba access point, which then pushes it to one of these partners or your own cloud. So totally up to you where you want it to go. You don't have to work with one of these. And that's the connection. So there's no hardware installation required for the actual infrastructure to collect the data, aside from that little USB stick that goes into the device. So that has been really a good thing. So yeah, so I'm going to kind of wrap it there and say, you know, let's go into some questions here. Let me see if I've got questions. So let's see. Are there software platforms available beyond what was listed there? Yes, you can go, like I said, you can go to your variety of different platforms. So if you have a software platform that you already prefer or that you like, we can help work with you to help them understand the data that's coming through. It's fairly straightforward and published, so it's not something that we keep really close to our vest. It's public information that we can share, and also our engineers and staff can help with that. Which Aruba access points does it work with is another question. So one of the things that Aruba has done is gone back and made this Aruba access point work with any Aruba access point that is either Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6 and has a USB port on it, which is approximately, I believe it's around 10 million of these access points that are in the field, and then all of the new ones that are coming out that have the USB port on them will work with our system. Let's see, what else do we have? Let me ask some of these, let me just read through some of these others here. Okay, so where can we buy the EISKU? That's a good question. I guess we should talk about where you can buy things. So the EISKU can be purchased from a variety of different places. You can reach out to us here at IoT at EnOcean.com. Of course, you can reach out to any of your EnOcean representatives around the country or the world, and they would be happy to help you with that. We have a European version, which is the EISKA, and that one is also available. You can also get these from places like Ingram Micro and DigiKey and a variety of different traditional distributors. Future Electronics has them, Newark has them. So there's ways that those can be discovered and purchased around the world. So, all right, I think that's all the questions that I've got, and I don't see any more. So we're going to go ahead, I think, and wrap up. And I appreciate everybody's time today. It's been great. And if you have any questions, again, please reach out to us at IoT at EnOcean.com, or you can always reach out directly to me at troy.davis at EnOcean.com. And this webinar will be recorded and placed on our YouTube channel. We do highly recommend that you jump on our YouTube channel and check out all the videos that we've got there, and subscribe, please. We have content that's coming out fairly regularly. So that's it. Thank you very much, and have a great day.